Yeah. Well, if you look at the church history in general, uh, you some people say there was not division in the church in few early centuries when the church was having persecution from the Roman authorities. That's not true. Even amidst widespread persecution, there were differences. Of course, those differences were not reflected in a full formation of a different stream of Catholic faith altogether. But there were heresies. There were fighting amongst different groups for for who is the true one. And there were excommunications going on. There we have in the scriptures itself few epistle writers saying that the antichrist has already come, he has gone astray, they have trained their own faith, etc. See, I believe the one of the reasons specifically why Jesus prayed, because it for me, unity is something which people want. When you pray for your, let's say, if you're starting your own religion, or if you're starting your own group of followers, unity is something that's not exactly prayed. You could pray that this group would become worldwide, and there would be many followers and salvation, etc. But unity is something which is I guess redundant in ordinary circumstances. To pray for unity, to pray that they don't break themselves apart into two pieces, to pray that people don't form their separate unions, etc., to be unified. And in my opinion, that prayer for unity by Jesus himself was added by Jesus, because he knew that there is a spirit of division that is flowing in the church from time from the time the church was established. I mean, look at when the Roman authorities are persecuting you like anything. You are fighting amongst yourselves on you know um on various matters. I mean, cannot specifically pinpoint a particular heresy that came up in before the legalization of Christianity, but there were many. And it has been recorded in church history. I mean, when Christianity became legal, I mean, look at what all kinds of heresies have been coming upon. I mean, two energies of Christ and one energy of Christ, and a Christ not being fully divine, Christ not being fully human, Arianism, and all these things that are coming up to. I mean, we still have a remnant of Mia Phi-site communities in the Oriental Orthodox community, which is there. And it's something which is very unique to Christianity, in my opinion, because usually you don't see that kind of divisions coming up from for no matter whatsoever. I mean, look at the Anglicanism, for that matter. How England became a Protestant community. You were not allowing divorce, so no authority with a pope. I would have my own church and people following them. I don't know who is this. Which person was this? The person who wrote not Oliver Twist, this Gulliver's Travels. I think so. It's Jonathan Swift. I mean, he agreed to the matter of. In fact, if you look at the in Jonathan Swift, in if you look at the Gulliver's Travels, there is this Lilliputian, and I guess there was this section. I am not clearly knowing where exactly it was, but there was this, that there was a prophet who told that you should break your eggs from the right side, and then there is a prophet who wants there was the king who broke his hand because he was breaking the egg from the broader side, so he told everyone to break the egg from the narrow side. And then people were persecuted, etc. It's a mockery of the Catholic Church that he made on that aspect, because for him, that was all about, that's how breaking the from which side of the egg is all that, papal authority and the papacy matters. It's just like that. uh, so it's ridiculous. Over matters of divorce and annulment, you are starting your own church. Over matters of other things, you are starting your own church. For political purposes, you are starting your own church, uh, and so on and so forth. I mean, if you look at the Eastern Orthodox Church, I mean, what were the differences for bread not being leavened or unleavened? I mean, yeah, and so on and so forth. So for any reason whatsoever, heresies just prompt up like this. And there is definitely a spirit of division and spirit of a spirit of division that's flowing in the church. And for so that people get separated, because if they're unified, then that's problematic. So I mean, look at if the church established by Jesus was one church, remained one church, then look at the amount of change that this world could have been brought. The entire, there would be nothing like Protestantism, and everyone would have been Catholic. So all the Christian countries would have been Christian, right? They don't would not be Roman Catholic, Lutheran, Protestantism, Evangelical, and so on and so forth. So, in my opinion, that's clearly important, that unity needs to be maintained, and we cannot take this lack of unity. We should not take this as, yeah, no, that's not a serious matter. It's a very serious matter. We should take unity in serious form. Uh, that's the broad outline that I would to take at it. Now, coming to the matter of Saint Pius, Society of the Saint Pius X. See, I love traditional Latin mass as well, and no doubt about it. But I love Catholic Church more than the traditional Latin mass. And if you look at, if you accept the Catholic Church, one of the things that you have to accept in the Catholic Church is that the Second Vatican Council is an ecumenical council, that was it might have brought some unintended bad results, but you have to remember that it was unintended, right? So as it's something like, when we talk about an abortion, you if your mother's life is in danger, you try to prevent the infection in mother's life, the baby dies. You cannot say the act of preventing the mother's infection was the reason why baby died, because that was not the intended act. Similarly, when Second Vatican Council was formed, it was never intended by the people that this. First of all, I would disagree that Second Vatican Council is the reason for the sex scandals that is happening in the churches, or what people say, that a large number of people are are leaving the faith, and that's because of two reasons. First of all, if mass number of people are leaving the Catholic faith, and Second Vatican Council is the reason for that, then it should have this mass number of people leaving the Catholic faith should have been restricted only to the Catholic faith, while it is not. I mean, the Church of England has lost many. Anglican churches lost many people. Protestants have lost many people. There are, I mean, in the entire Western world and the Western religions, so to speak, religions which were popular in Europe, including Judaism, or most of them, are people are identifying themselves as none. So there is a growth of atheism, and there is a growth of agnosticism, etc. So clearly there is a lack of faith among the people in the West, and it is irrespective of whichever faith you belong to, especially if the faith is traditionally a Western faith. Um, and I mean, you understood that what it means. So that's the first thing. Secondly, if this sex abuse is the result of Second Vatican Council, then this sex abuse should not be there in the Society of Saint Pius X. But we see that there have been few cases of sex abuse in the Society of Saint Pius X. And if that is the case, then we should have also seen that traditionally in the Middle Ages, etc., there should not have been bad days and bad things happening in the Catholic Church. But we see that those bad things and including the sex abuse was there in the Catholic faith. So it's not. I don't see any reason whatsoever that there's this. Second Vatican Council should be blamed of how, the animosity that I see among the Society of Saint Pius X is so big for the ecumenical council. Now, yes, Pope Francis has, extended the communion and extended, the special graces and indulgence, and for the grace of souls, etc. But that doesn't mean they are in full communion with the Catholic Church. No, they aren't. You know, in my opinion, this will lead many people to confusion. This move of Pope Francis as to, is this a church where I should go every time, or like every Sunday, even if I have a diocesan church, and I could go to a diocesan Latin mass, etc. And if you go into the fold, you definitely would end up hearing that Second Vatican Council was wrong, and it is this and it is that, etc. So in my opinion, this is something which we need to look at it in a deeper perspective. Now, uh, okay, so that was one thing with regard to it, and second, with regard to the Novus Ordo Mass. See, I'm a fan of communion in hand. I literally want that this practice should be there. Similarly, I think would be having no problem if people encourage traditional Latin Mass. I mean, that's absolutely no problem. In fact, Second Vatican Council did encourage, traditional Latin Mass, even in the Novus Ordo, etc. um, it's see, if you this is one thing that usually Catholics don't know about it. There was an animosity between the forms of mass which Syrian Christians did, especially the Syro-Malabar, etc. Syro-Malabar Church and Syro-Malankara Church do, like Eastern Catholic churches, and the Latin Church. So I consider if SSPX guy having animosity towards the mass of the Latin, the Novus Ordo Mass, I consider that animosity as equivalent to how Portuguese considered the especially when Portuguese had colonies in India, how they considered the Syrian Christian mass as with that kind of animosity. I mean, they imposed a kind of in many cases they imposed the Latin mass. Some people accepted by their own will the form of Latin mass, but others imposed this Latin mass on Syrian Christians who had their own form of saying mass in Syrian tradition, and this was the Latin tradition. Um, in fact, you would be seeing it is so what to say, wrong, and it's so sad to see history when some of the martyrs of the Syrian Christian churches were not Hindus, were not fanatic Hindus, in spite of the hatred of the Christianity amongst Hindus at some point of time, and like it's also today as well. But it was the Latin Catholic missionaries who is supposed to have killed this Syrian bishops who went to the Rome asking for dialogue, and for other things as well, for dialogue between the Roman Church as well as, and that we could have our own way of celebrating Mass, etc., like in communion with the Eastern tradition. And so I see the Novus Ordo. If you have an animosity towards Novus Ordo Mass, if you call it as an effect of Protestantism or whatever it may be, then in my opinion that is equivalent to showing animosity to mass of Eastern Christians, because you and you know I have to say this. In some cases, the Eastern Christians also have animosity towards Latin Mass, and this is the last thing we need today. When there are divisions within the church on based on Protestantism, and Eastern Orthodoxy, etc. Do we really need a division based on the rights of people, rights of churches? I don't see the way how you celebrate the mass is any way going to determine the differences, is any way going to make sure that your mass is better or their mass is better. uh, okay, fine, you don't like a particular form of mass, there is a particular form of mass that you like, go and join them. But there are people who like the novice order mass, and they have dignity, treat that mass with dignity, just like just like we treat all the Eastern churches with dignity, and all Eastern churches should treat the Latin church with dignity. Similarly, we should treat all the rites with dignity. You might have affinity towards one form of mass, go for it if you want to have it. I mean, that's what makes church so diverse. But please don't fight over all those things. And this is a reason, this animosity towards the novice order mass, and this animosity towards the Latin Catholic, towards the Second Vatican Council, is something which this Society of Saint Pius the Tenth should have to reconcile and should have to publicly apologize for. I think so. Coming in full communion with the church. They have their own. We have to give them credit for, first of all, uh, perhaps we could say that the love for the Latin Mass origin from like especially the survival of the Latin Mass was because of them, right? And So that is one important thing that we have to look at, that. But even amongst the Society of Saint Pius X, there was this FSSP people as well. I mean, the FSSP followers who wanted to be in communion with the Catholic Church, and when it was recognized that there could be no communion with SSPX and Vatican, and there came another followers of FSSP, which is good, which shows that when Society of Saint Pius X was formed, they were not just Vatican II haters, but Vatican II approvers as well. It's just that what Vatican II haters and Vatican II approvers had in common is the love for the traditional mass. And when it was decided that you either hate or approve the Vatican II, council, then those who approved Vatican II Council and remain in communion with the Church of Rome, they formed a separate organization. So, in my opinion, the communion towards the Church of Rome is the only thing that defines you being a Roman Catholic. If you are not approved by the Church of Rome, if you are not approved by the Bishop of Rome, if you are not in full communion with Bishop of Rome, you might be good, you might be very very much Christian, but you are not a if you are not a Catholic. Forget about being Roman Catholic, you are not a Catholic. And Yeah, that's something which is to be required. And we need to consider this. Is division based on language, is the division based on form of mass, is division based on whether I would get divorced or not, is division based on whether uh, you know uh, whether the bread that you use is unleavened bread or leavened bread. Is this division needed? Where this divisions needed? Philippe, for that example, there was a lot of chatter among the Eastern Orthodox and Catholic faith on the part that on that part of Philippe, how they could do this. And but now the both the churches have reconciled this fact. At least Filioque is not the reason. It's not what to say. It's not a particular reason why this church could be, is not a barrier for the reconciliation of both the churches, or reconciliation of Eastern Orthodox Church to the Roman to the Catholic Church. And so you know even now if I see this, and I think so. The debate between the grace-based religion and act-based religion of Catholic and Protestantism, that debate is also going to soon end. In fact, that was one of the fiercest debate between Catholics and Protestants. But now Protestants have seen that there are all kinds of people who call themselves Christians but don't live up to Christian values, and they have the faith that that Christ is merciful, etc. You have so many singers, popular pop stars, etc. Who say that, okay, Christ is merciful, so let me do homosexual acts. Christ is merciful, so let me have premarital sex, etc. And you see that people have taken that grace thing too far. And now they have said, okay, now even if you say that oh, Christ is God, your acts has to approve that Christ is God. So I mean, these things show that there was unnecessary fight between the churches, and there was unnecessary division between churches. And I think so, I look up to a future. I want to see a future where Society of Saint Pius X is fully reconciled with the second, the Catholic Church, approving the Second Vatican Council, and approving the Second Vatican Council, and they would see that the time when there was so much distress and there was so much literature which showed animosity for the Novus Ordo Mass was just baseless. Um, I mean, that's something I mean, that could be one thing which I would say that still the church would remain true. If I'm for sure that if people say that the Novus Ordo Mass was not a valid mass, or was a evil Protestant mass, etc., and all Catholic Church seem to, like, let's say, accept it, then I don't see Catholic Church was right about anything. uh, but the other way around, I hope that that way that happens, that the SSPX recognizes that its animosity towards Novus Ordo Mass was baseless.